Day 4 of Washington Commanders training camp is in the books, and we've got 2 Commanders players coming through on this episode. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
Your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this bonus episode of Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. And don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can continue this conversation over with me on Subtext by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. And I am your host, David Harrison, Washington Commanders beat reporter for CommanderCountry.com, a part of Sports Illustrated's FanNation, here with you every Monday through Friday and sometimes on Saturdays, as it were today. And of course, all of the everydayers out there, I always appreciate your support. I appreciate you coming through on a consistent basis like you do. You can also find me on Twitter if you would like, at dharrison82. And on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we're going to discuss our 4th installment of Sam Howell Watch. We're going to hear from wide receivers Dax Milne and Byron Pringle as well. But we're going to start today's episode talking about wide receiver depth. And that's kind of the reason that Byron Pringle and Dax Milne are on the show today. You guys, some of the subtexters asked to hear from them, specifically wanted to know some of the things that we discussed as well. And I said, you know what? This is one of our camp battles. This is one of our camp stories, the depth of the Washington Commanders wide receiver group, who's going to make the roster, who's not going to make the roster. So I said, let's roll this all into one. I'll just spend the day watching these receivers, taking notes, looking at some things that are interesting. But as of right now, as Ron Rivera would say, not completely important, because it is the first week of training camp. So we don't want to draw too many conclusions from what we're seeing right off the bat, right? So we're going to talk receivers here. Then we're going to hear from the receivers as well. I think that kind of flows well together. So we're going to start with our camp story of the day. And look, obviously, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, that's your top 3 receivers for the Washington Commanders this year, right? I think everybody can agree to that and appreciate that is kind of set in stone. De'Ami Brown, depending on who you talk to, some think that he's a lock for wide receiver number 4. Some think he's not a lock for wide receiver 4. I'm on the side that I do think that he is the 4th wide receiver, unless he shows reason that he shouldn't be the 4th wide receiver. And so far during training camp, he's mossed Percy Butler and he's made some other great plays. He did have a rough play today, but that's going to happen. So I think that he's going to be wide receiver 4. I think bottom line, he's going to make the roster, right? So if you want to count receivers that we kind of know are going to make the roster, you're up to 4 at this point. After that, you've got maybe 2 or 3 spots left. I think most teams carry about 6 receivers on the active roster. Some maybe go 7, depending on, the strengths of the roster and kind of where they want to shore up some depth spots. But, so maybe 2, probably 2, maybe 3 spots left on the roster to be claimed by receivers. And you've got guys like Marcus Kemp, who's a little bit of a veteran, came from Kansas City, knows Eric Bieniemy's system, a taller type of receiver that they don't really have in the other guys. Terry McLaurin is tallish, sure, but he's not quite as tall as Marcus Kemp, kind of a big receiver type of guy, certainly a red zone threat. Dax Milne is another guy fighting for that spot. Byron Pringle just joined the roster, right before training camp, but I think that he is certainly a threat to make this roster. Knows Eric Bieniemy, knows the Kansas City offense. So, of course, some of the things that Eric Bieniemy wants to do here, not completely what Kansas City does, but some of those things are certainly going to transfer over, and Byron Pringle is going to know that. And, of course, there's other guys too. Kyrick McGowan is out there, Casimir Allen as well. So, one of these spots, if we say there's 2 spots left, one of those spots likely going to go to a guy that doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of special teams contributions under his belt, but one of those spots is also going to go to a guy that's going to definitely have to contribute on special teams. And that essentially narrows down this remaining battle between guys like Dax Milne, Casimir Allen, and Byron Pringle for what I believe will be one of the final spots on this active roster for the wide receiver group. Now, of those 3, Dax Milne clearly has the bigger presence on special teams than either Allen or Pringle. Now, Kaz Allen's a rookie, so that's a little unfair to say, I guess. But Byron Pringle, he's got some return experience in the National Football League, but not here in Washington specifically. Obviously, special teams coordinator Nate Katzer knows Dax Milne better, probably has a little bit of a better rapport, for what that's worth. But there have been plenty in the media and the fan base that have voiced frustration with the lack of explosive returns in the punt return game specifically, and even when he's returned some kickoffs from Dax Milne, the 3rd-year receiver, in the past. And I did ask Dax about that very fact in the interview that we're going to have with him, so you will hear him kind of talk about that just a little bit. And, in team drills on Saturday, I was looking and I said, okay, let me find out in the first set of 11 on 11 drills. I think that's really kind of the most important one when you're trying to look at try to diagnose like who might have a leg up on the depth chart. In the first set of 11 on 11 Saturday, Dax Milne was actually the first depth receiver. So after Terry, Jahan, and Curtis, those are your kind of top three. Dax Milne was actually the first depth receiver to get reps on offense, perhaps signaling that he's got a little bit of a favor with the head coach here, understanding his battle, of course, is far from settled at this point. And De'Ami Brown was actually the second depth receiver on the field. I still personally, again, assert that I think that De'Ami Brown is certainly going to make this roster. Now, when the second team went in, so first team came off, Jacoby Brissett brought the second team offense in for their first 11 on 11 set. It was Dax Milne, Kyrick McGowan, Marcus Kemp that were on the field first with the second team. So I think that's interesting because De'Ami Brown not on the field for the first reps with the second team, but getting a lot of first team reps. So again, that kind of reinforces my belief that De'Ami is pretty much set for this roster unless he does something to really mess it up. And Dax Milne is kind of in that second group along with guys like Kyrick McGowan, Marcus Kemp, and maybe on the fringe of that group, Casimir Allen, Byron Pringle, guys like that who maybe are the top echelon of the third, portion of wide receivers. So it's going to be something interesting to watch. Obviously, the punt return battle is going to have something to do with that, but also the way that these receivers are being used for kick returners. Antonio Gibson, Jarrett Patterson, Byron Pringle, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Jonathan Williams were all back there fielding kickoffs. So I think interesting that a lot of those guys are obviously running backs and then Pringle, the wide receiver. They were also working on fielding squib kicks, and that's something that we talked to Nate Katzer about, the special teams coordinator, with this new rule where teams can fair catch inside the 20 and bring the ball out. Nate Katzer is anticipating there may be a few more squib kicks or a lot more even squib kicks this year in an attempt to prevent teams from being able to do that and forcing them to return a ball and then not only have to return it, but also have to return a ball that is bouncing around everywhere. So again, not a ton to read into all that yet, but an update on that camp story, camp battle. That's kind of what we've been doing all week, leading off with a camp battle, camp story, camp question as it is right now. But again, week one of 5 or 6 weeks left in this whole thing. So again, more answers to come, and each week we will get a little bit more sure of ourselves as far as how this is going to work out. So not a ton yet to read into it, but as camp progresses, we will revisit this topic and I'll continue to look at the usage of these guys. So we're going to go right into our play of the day in segment one today. Typically this leads off our second segment, but because of the interviews, I want to go ahead and get it in here in segment one. And, look, first day, first team quarterback came away with the throw that was play of the day. Second day, second team quarterback came away with a throw that was a play of the day. Third day, third team quarterback came away with a throw that was the play of the day. So fourth day, as you would expect, it was a running back. Brian Robinson, left side run, hit the C gap run, hit the C gap to a big hole. I think I wrote this up for Sports Illustrated's FanNation at Commander Country, and I think I used the phrase, they didn't open up a lane, they opened up an expressway for Brian Robinson. It was a very, very big lane that B-Rob went into, made one move on a defender, shook him, got past him, wouldn't have even been a practice tackle, just completely got away from him, then just turned on the jets and ran down the field. I'll tell you, Brian Robinson looks a little bit faster to me this year than he did in last season. I don't have a clock. I certainly don't have laser time. Even if I did have a clock, it'd be hand time, which is highly inaccurate. But I do feel like Brian Robinson looks a little bit faster this year than he did last year. Not saying he's a burner, but a little bit faster than he did last year. An honorable mention, play of the day candidate, another deep shot today from third string quarterback Jake Fromm to wide receiver Zion Bowens. I talked real quick to Jake as he was coming off the practice field and just told him, I said, hey man, you and Zion, you got that connection going. He said, yeah, man, it's great. Those balls, you can put them up there and you can trust him to go up there and get them. And it shows, national championship type throw. Zion Bowens making a really good catch on that play. But B-Rob, our first non-quarterback player or non-passing play of the day here of training camp, Brian Robinson. Obviously the offensive line gets a lot of credit for that too, opening that gap again, the C gap on the left side. So that's, your guard and your left tackle, Charles Leno Jr. there. Speaking of left guards, Sadiq Charles got reps with the first team, but so did Chris Paul on Saturday. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on. Again, nothing to completely draw conclusions on, but it is interesting that Chris Paul was getting some first team burn at left guard. So next up, you're going to hear from two players our subtexters have asked to hear from involved in this wide receiver depth camp battle. That is Dax Milne. And then, of course, newcomer Byron Pringle. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are a guaranteed fit to your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And Vinny says if you're looking to make a smooth turn in fantasy football snake drafts with the last pick in the first round and the first pick in the second round, you will be guaranteed to have a winning 1-2 punch of workhorse power in your backfield when taking Colts running back Jonathan Taylor and Browns running back Nick Chubb back-to-back. While Taylor's a perfect rebound candidate and a more run-friendly offense in Indianapolis, Chubb is also set up to dominate with more of the combined workload in Cleveland without Kareem Hunt taking touches and taking snaps. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows that a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same goes for your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it, and they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or view today and every day and every day. Appreciate you coming through for this episode. Appreciate you coming through for every episode of training camp so far and all the ones to come. We've got plenty more to come this training camp. We're just getting started. We haven't even hit the first preseason game yet. Lots to talk about. And of course, like I mentioned before the break, we've got player interviews here. Dax Milne and Byron Pringle. We're going to start with Byron Pringle, the newcomer who has experience with Eric Bieniemy from his years in Kansas City, but last year came from the Chicago Bears.
All right, Byron, first and foremost, welcome to DMV.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
How do you, I mean, we got a lot of fans out here for you. How do you feel about this fan show up?
Oh, man, it's a great opportunity to have fans out here. Hearing what I heard about the fans is great. We need their support and come out here every day and boost us up and make us. They give us that extra boost to go harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When we tired and exhausted, it just give us an extra boost. That's like an energy boost.
Now, obviously, you're a grown man. Now you're a professional, right? But as a child inside of you, has it sunk in that you play for a team owned by Magic Johnson yet? How does that feel?
Oh man, it's great, man. It's a great opportunity to play for Magic Johnson. You know, he was one of the great basketball players. So it's just a great opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Are you a basketball fan? You like basketball?
Nah.
No?
I really don't pay attention to basketball.
Okay, but we all know who Magic is, right? That's one of those names that transcends fandom.
Yes,
what are your expectations coming in here to the Commanders?
My expectations? Gotta come in and bring hard work and headaches to defense and to special teams, wherever they put me at.
Yeah.
And all 3 phases of the game. 2 phases of the game. It doesn't matter.
And special teams coordinator Nate Katzer told me earlier during minicamp before you arrived that there's definitely an open competition for some of those return jobs. How do you feel like you present competition for guys like Dax Milne and others?
Man, I'm coming to work. You know what I mean? So I leave that up to the coaches.
And then Eric Bieniemy is the same EB you remember from KC?
Oh yeah, he the same EB. He the same EB. You know, you got to come with that hard hat on.
All right.
You know, and compete at a high level.
All right, so that was great to talk with Byron, to catch up with him again. I tried to catch up with him on Friday, but the heat was just intense and my phone would not stay on. It kept shutting down. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure the other brands of phones honestly do it. I assume they probably do, but it gets too hot and it says shutting down for the phone safety or whatever, and you'll be able to use your phone again here in a little bit. And a little bit never came because I was still outside in the sweltering heat. But a quick conversation with Byron, newcomers to the team. So just kind of some cursory things of, what are your expectations? What do you think of Sam Howell? What do you think of EB and getting, reconnected with him, things like that. But we got a little bit deeper with Dax Milne. He's got a little bit of history here. We did have a conversation about what he expects. Also talked about, again, that frustration from the outside looking in about the lack of explosive punt returns, and then what he is hoping to bring to Eric Bieniemy's system.
All right, Dax, year 3. What are the expectations?
Year 3, I think I got some expectations for myself. To start off, one is to just reestablish that I'm a guy that the coaches can trust on special teams and on offense, and really just like throughout training camp and practice, just continue to show that I'm an explosive playmaker that can move the chains, just given the opportunity. And then on punt returns, again, just a guy that can just go out there. The coaches can be totally calm about having possession of the ball and working forward with that and be more explosive. I think I did a great job of just being a reliable guy last year, but now I want to just be a little more explosive and take a little more chances because I got some experience now.
Let's talk about that, because I know obviously fans always want the explosive plays, right? And I think that's fair for a fan to expect that kind of thing. But when I talked to Coach Katzer, special teams coordinator Nate Couch, he said, make sure you would tell people not to underestimate the value of simply, quote unquote, right? I'm putting that in air quotes behind the camera, catching a punt. Can we talk about really how difficult that actually is? Because I see y'all working on it daily.
Yeah, I think many fans can kind of be oblivious to the fact that it is really hard to just go out there and just simply catch it. It's one thing to go out there and catch it with no one coming at you, but then another thing is when people coming at you full speed, grown men, it's like,
right,
you got to locate the ball, where it's going to be, and decide whether or not in a split second whether fair catch it, what way you're going to go. So I think people should be a little more understanding there, but I definitely want to be more explosive and give the fans what they want there. So
absolutely, just because you make it look simple don't mean it's actually simple, right? So let's talk about a drill I saw today. You were fielding punts, and one of the coaches was throwing like an exercise ball at you guys. What is that designed to do, and how complicated does that make things?
Yeah, so a common occurrence during a typical punt return is those gunners. They can get real close to you as you're catching the ball, and if you don't decide to fair catch it, in a split second right after you catch it, you got to decide whether to go right, left, or straight. And so that's what it's kind of mimicking by throwing the yoke ball right at us. Right after we catch it, we got to decide where to go.
And then as a receiver, I'm not a wide receiver coach myself, but looking at you running on the field, looks like your routes are a little bit smoother this year. Would you say that that's accurate? Do you feel a little bit more comfortable getting in and out of your breaks?
Yeah, I think I'm always improving on that. I've always took pride in being a great route runner. And yeah, year 3, it's all just polishing it up. Especially with this offense, EB gives us a lot of freedom to kind of get open, whereas in previous years maybe we were a little more strict about movements and steps. But I'm loving how things are going this year.
Absolutely. And then third year in the NFL, but you're on your 4th, maybe 5th quarterback. It's a lot of quarterbacks that you've had to play with. What are you thinking about this new one, Sam Howell, that you got?
Yeah, I love Sam. He's a stud. I think we had a great connection, last year, even in practice and in preseason. And then moving in, I've just seen a ton of confidence just emitted from him and him taking control of the offense. So I'm excited for him.
And then we got to ask the Eric Bieniemy question. What are your thoughts on EB so far?
He's a passionate man. He loves football, and that's something that you want as a coach. It's a guy that loves his job, takes pride in his job. I think it's just up to the players to just kind of follow his lead and see where the ship takes us.
Absolutely. Now I've got multiple listeners, viewers of Locked On Commanders asking me to talk to you. So you got a message for the fans out there supporting you?
Hey, fans, believe in me, and I'll give you a reason why to believe in me. Coming through the season, I'm gonna be more explosive on punt returns, and I'm gonna do my thing on offense. Be a reliable route runner, move the chains.
All right, so that is Dax Milne, wide receiver for the Washington Commanders. Also Byron Pringle before that. And we're going to wrap up today's show with our 4th edition of Howell Watch and a little swag courtesy of the Washington Commanders. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Howell Watch day 4 for the Washington Commanders at training camp. And on the 4th day, Sam Howell went 10 for 16. That's 63% in 11 on 11 drills. Fairly solid number, right? Again, you don't want, you would prefer to have like 70s, right? But 63 is a fairly solid number. Now, what wasn't solid, however, was a pick 6 that Sam Howell threw while he was targeting Terry McLaurin. As McLaurin was coming open from the right to the left side, Howell stepped up to throw to his star receiver when it appeared that he got tripped up by one of the feet of either his center or his left guard, possibly. Got tripped up by one of his linemen's feet, and the result was he was kind of falling backwards and threw the ball incredibly off balance. Just kind of fluttered out there, and Terry McLaurin, who actually had a little bit of separation from Emmanuel Forbes, if Sam could have gotten the ball out ahead of Terry, which is I'm sure what he expected or wanted to do, then it probably would have been a completion. But because he was falling backwards, obviously took something off the ball, comes out just as a duck, and it lands right in the hands of Emmanuel Forbes, who runs it back. Would have been a pick six if it were a game situation and not even close. So certainly not something that Sam Howell wants to replicate. Certainly not something the first team offense wants to replicate. And then he didn't for the rest of the practice. He did, however, have a second interception in 11-on-11 drills. But that pass actually hit Dyami Brown right in the hands. And Dyami just didn't, clamp down on it hard enough. It went right through his hands and into the waiting arms of Percy Butler, who was playing over the top coverage on the play. Now Brown, I did see on the sideline shortly thereafter doing some push-ups, clearly trying to make a payment, atone for the mental error. So honestly, overall for the day on Saturday, the Washington offense, generally speaking, looked out of sync. There were some bad snaps from Nick Gates to Sam Howell, snapping the ball over his head. And look, when your quarterback is 5'10", man, you can't have those high snaps. Now, the good news about the high snaps is they came during the same set of 11-on-11s. 2 plays in that same set. That's not good, but they came in the same set. They didn't happen again after that, and it's the first time we've seen that during camp. So right now you take it as an anomaly. Nick Gates was seen later on. I think Ben Standig was the first one from the Athletics to report it, was seen hobbling a little bit after the last team drills, but again was in drills at the end of the practice and seemed to be walking on it just fine on his way into the locker room, and certainly probably going to elevate that a little bit for his day off. So just in time. Washington, just in time. Their offense, they need a break. They need a little bit of a break. They kind of started off pretty good to begin the week, but then kind of fell off a little bit as the week went on. And I think a little bit of that is going up against such a tough defense. You know what I mean? It's got to be frustrating, and you probably press a little bit. But in the end of the day, iron sharpens iron, and hopefully it's going to make them better. Now, in the first set of 11-on-11 drills, Sam Howell quickly connected with Logan Thomas, the tight end, who was going up against Benjamin St-Juste to complete his first pass. That second pass, like I said, was intercepted by Emmanuel Forbes and run back. His third pass was also incomplete. Terry McLaurin ran, a fly route right up the field on the right sideline against Forbes, got behind him. McLaurin won the route, but the ball sailed out of bounds. Went 1 for 4 after he threw an incomplete pass intended for tight end Cole Turner on an out route on the left side of the field. Derek Forrest, the safety, was in coverage. Completed his fifth pass on a hitch route by Dyami Brown in front of Emmanuel Forbes, and then overthrew Terry McLaurin again down the field, this time going up against Benjamin St-Juste. McLaurin stemmed his route inside, like a skinny post inside. The ball went outside, so a miscommunication there. Not sure who it was on, but a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver. I think most of us would probably say that McLaurin was probably right, just giving him the benefit of the doubt for his history. And then completing his final pass of the first set of 11-on-11s, a left side out route to tight end Curtis Hodges, going 3 for 7 to start the day in 11-on-11s. The second set of 11s were actually no passes. It was all runs. That's where our run of the day comes, our play of the day comes. Brian Robinson, a left side C-gap run through a major hole. That was during the second set of 11s for the first team offense. No passes, but that's also where the 2 high snaps came from Nick Gates. And so first 2 high passes or high snaps of the training camp, but also Sam Howell's first 2 interceptions in 11s of training camp. So yeah, again, not a stellar day for the offense. When they came back out on the field, Sam Howell went 3 for 4. Had a connection on a left side out route to Curtis Samuel in front of Benjamin St-Juste, and then was incomplete deep on the left side to tight end John Bates, who was covered by Defoe again. Completed a screen pass to Logan Thomas, who ran upfield. I will tell you, linebacker Cody Barton would have blown that screen up. I mean, Logan would have caught the ball, but he would have been hit hard and fast by Cody Barton. And Cody Barton made sure to tell Logan Thomas afterwards, like, hey, it's a good thing you're my teammate, right? But it's a completed pass nonetheless. Completed his third of 4 passes on a drag route to Jahan Dotson, rolling out with Chase Young under pressure. And then on the fourth pass, it was a scramble by Sam Howell. Nick Gates, the center, put Jonathan Allen on his butt. Kind of rough. Got up and certainly came back to Jonathan Allen. And I don't know what they said exactly, but I assume it was, hey, bro, my bad. I won't get that intense. And again, maybe a little bit of the heat, maybe a little bit of the struggles, a little bit of frustration coming out of Nick Gates. But he very quickly went back to John Allen and everything was fine. Everything was good. Last set of team drills, 11-on-11s for Sam Howell's group. Sam completed his first pass, scramble drill pass to Antonio Gibson short. On the second pass, it was kind of weird. I think there was a false start on the play. The offense still ran the play, but the defense kind of didn't. Either way, Sam Howell hit Jahan Dotson over the middle in front of Rashad Wildgoose. Rashad Wildgoose was yelling that there was a flag anyway, so it didn't matter. The third pass of the set was the interception by Percy Butler that came off of De'Ami Brown's hands, and then 2 more completions on the right side, 1 an out route to Curtis Samuel with amazing anticipation. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, basically Sam Howell threw the ball right at my face, and when he threw the ball, I'm looking, and all I see is green, and I'm like, where is he throwing the ball to? And then out of nowhere comes number 4 coming clear and completes an out route to him. So that is some really good anticipation from Sam Howell on that pass. And then the final pass of his 11-on-11 day, a right to left, middle post route to Logan Thomas in zone coverage. So before we get out of here, that was our Howell Watch, our 4th Howell Watch. But before we get out of here, I did want to share a little bit about the festivities that happened on Saturday. It was Together Again Saturday across the NFL, the training camp. Again, Saturday's practice session, the Commanders reported somewhere around 10,000 tickets have been administered or issued. I don't know how many people showed up. There were a lot of you. There were a lot of Commanders fans there, and guys, it was amazing. It was great. I greatly appreciate all of you coming, and you didn't even come for me, but the players greatly appreciated it as well. Ron Rivera addressed the crowd after practice. It was impressive. It was really cool. There was music. There were booths of people. I don't know exactly what they were doing. It was on-field entertainment. They had some junior cheerleaders and dancers and stuff like that come out, and it was a lot of fun for all the families, and the proud parents were photographing and taking videos of their kids on the field. It was super cool. On-field entertainment, and then there was swag. There was things like this fan pack I'm going to show you here. This was given out to the fans that came in attendance. I grabbed one so that I could show it to those of you who weren't in attendance and see the kind of stuff that your team is giving out to fans. So I'm going to open this here on the show with you, and we're going to take a look at what's inside this little swag bag here. So the first thing, got a little notebook on a lanyard. That's pretty cool, right? What's next? We have some shades. I think I actually saw multiple people on the field wearing the Command Force guys and gals were wearing these sunglasses. So got some sunglasses in here given out to the fans that were in attendance there. I got some Paisanos chapstick. I wonder if it tastes like pizza. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool, but Paisanos branded chapstick. And then you got, what is this, lotion? Yeah, this is lotion with a D-ring. So a keychain lotion deal there, the burgundy label. And then these, I saw these all over the crowd, which I think is kind of cool. It's a fan. It's a foldable fan. Yeah, cool. So cool stuff given out by the Washington Commanders there to the fans in attendance on Saturday. Not sure if they're going to be giving those out continuously or continuing to give those out. But yeah, just some cool stuff that the Washington Commanders are doing for you guys as much as possible, trying to make you comfortable when you come to practice and training camp. And yeah, I greatly appreciate it too. I know a lot of the media members appreciate you guys all being out there. Super cool to see all the excitement hear from you, and then meet even more Locked On Commanders listeners and viewers. Every day I'm meeting new listeners and viewers of this program, and that's super cool for me. And I greatly appreciate all of you for taking the time to yell out to me, because I am paying attention to the field, so you might have to yell a couple times sometimes. I apologize for that. It's not because I don't want to talk to you, it's because I'm kind of focused on what I'm doing, so you got to kind of snap me out of that for a second. But if I can come say hi to you, I certainly will. Speaking of that, I'll be back at practice on Monday, so if you're out there, make sure you say hi. And as usual, I'll be dropping a post-practice episode. I do plan on doing that one back out at Ashburn. John Keim and I were talking today about some show recording issues that we've had out there at Ashburn, and we've got some ideas that we're going to try out on Monday. So he and I both are going to be looking to get back to recording our episodes out there at Ashburn for you. So be on the lookout for that Monday afternoon. In the meantime, if you want to send your questions in, drop them in the YouTube comments, hit me on Twitter, email them to lockedoncommanders@gmail.com, or text me directly via Subtext. Join subtext.com/lockedoncommanders. I am texting subtexters during practices, giving you kind of updates as I get them. Doing my best I can. Signal out there is terrible. I don't know how Zach Selby tweets as much as he does when we're out there, but signal is terrible out there. So doing the best that we can with what we got. But as always, I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Thanks for coming through on a consistent basis like you do. And I thank you, of course, for making me a part of your day, your football routine. And if you've got anything else you want to talk about, just hit me up either on text or on Twitter at dharrison82. Till we speak again, please be safe, be kind. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.